Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. Thanks for joining me. Today's card is a card from the October 2025 card class, and I'm calling this Holly Jolly. Actually, it's Jolly Holly. I keep getting this backwards, but it's the Jolly Holly meets Peace on Earth. We're using the sentiment from the Jolly Holly. Of course, you could use any sentiment you wanted. You could also pull in one of the sentiments from the Peace on Earth stamp set, but we're actually using the Peace on Earth dies. We're using the label die that we've used to stamp the sentiment on, as well as the little greenery, the dove, and the envelope. Those are all dies from the Peace on Earth die set. So these are the 4 dies that you would be needing. So let me move those out of the way for now. And we are also using the Peaceful Greenery 3D embossing folder. The theme for the October class was focusing on using elements from the Peaceful Garden suite, and of course the Peace on Earth is a big part of that. But let's get started on this card. So for our card base, we are using Crumb Cake. And before I go any further, I do want to just let you know that all of the materials, as well as the sizes that you will need, the cuts, sizes, and the score lines, etc., all of that is in the description of this video. So you'll find all the materials, dimensions, etc., everything you need there. So I don't give that out when I'm going through the videos, because I think it's easier just for you to look in the description and get the write-up of those. Then we have our 2 pieces of basic white, one for a layering panel, and then one for the interior. Now you can finish your interior however you want. As you saw, I stamped a Merry Christmas in there. Then this is the Crumb Cake 2-tone paper that we have. So we've got a piece of that. Then you'll need a white piece for your label. Then a strip of the Crumb Cake cardstock, and that is so you can cut your leaf and your envelope. Now this die for the envelope cuts too, so when you're preparing this, it may just be easier to prepare products, do all the cuts and everything for 2 different cards. And then you'll knock that out of the way, have 2 cards ready to use for the holidays. And then I'm using a white Glimmer paper. Now this paper was, I think, from last holidays. This year Stampin' Up is not offering a white Glimmer paper. They do have, I think, a white felt type paper that you could use. But if you have no white Glimmer paper in your stash, there are several options for you. You could use Designer Series paper. This particular piece is from the Peaceful Garden, and as you see, it blends nicely with those colors. You could also use a basic beige one, because that looks good on there. You could take white, just use a piece of basic white, and use a Wink of Stella and add a little shine if you want. But I went through my stash and I had a lot of this white Glimmer paper, so I thought it worked great. And that, of course, is to cut the dove. You'll also need some linen thread, and we are using for embellishment the little pearls, iridescent basic pearl gems. As far as inks, you only need one color of ink, and that is the Crumb Cake. Everything is monochromatic on this card. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and fold our card base and add our layering panel. This is a fun holiday card. I just love the way it turned out. And I really like having the non-traditional colors using the crumb cake. But I am going to try this with some other colors. I think this may be my holiday card that I send out this year. Then next, you're going to want to bring in that embossing folder, that Peaceful Greenery embossing folder. And we're going to align, and this two-tone paper has two shades. There's one darker, one lighter. I'm using the lighter. If you want, you could use the darker, but I just preferred the lighter look. If you ordered a class kit to go, I have already texture emboss this for you, and I did use the light side. So I put the light side facing up, and I'm using the line at the bottom where the Stampin' Up logo is to ensure that I have this aligned properly. Then with the magic of TV, I have one prepared for us. So this is how this turned out when I ran it through the die cutting machine. Now, the beauty of this two-tone paper is taking when you emboss it, it's going to break some of those fibers, and that white core that's in the middle of between the two different colors is going to show. So you just get a nail file, or if you have one of the little card files or sanding papers, you can use that. But I'm just going to take, and I'm just going to rough this up, run across, and you can expose as much or as little as you would like. But basically, you just take and you're sanding, take a sanding block and sanding off that extra. And as I said, you can take an emery board, because basically that's sandpaper. And that's all we're doing. Hitting those raised areas. And I'm going to do one more swipe down on each side. And I think that will be enough. As I said, you can do as much or as little as you want. And if you don't care for this look, you could use just regular cardstock instead. Let's clear off all of that sanding now. So now we're going to bring this in, and we're going to add this to our layer. And I am using a strong adhesive because of the embossing. I want to make sure that I get adhesive down into those little areas that have been raised up some, so it'll attach to my layering panel. That may be overkill, but I just want to make sure that I have very good adhesion. So now we have that attached. Then next we're going to pull in our piece of basic white. We're going to use our crumb cake, and we're going to stamp our sentiment from the holly, from the Jolly Holly. That's backwards. It should be Holly Jolly. But who am I to say? Then we're going to just lay our die on top, and we're going to take that to our die cutting machine. So I will just lay that on there, and while I'm at that, I'm going to go ahead and die cut the other pieces I need. So we're doing it all in one fell swoop. And there again, with the magic of television, or should I say videos, I have these already die cut and ready to go. Aren't these little envelopes? Isn't that just cute as can be? So now we're just going to we're going to add the sentiment on there, and I am using dimensionals to lift that. We'll just center that in the middle of our paper. Next, we can just use a drop of glue to add our little envelope. Now, when you go to lay your dove on, I'm pretend, don't you love that, that his beak, that he has that envelope in his beak. As you see, I have it here. And because part of this is raised, part of the dove needs to be raised, but then there's a part that will lie flat. And on that edge that's going to lie flat, that part of the wing, I'm just using a glue dot to hold it in place. But as you see, I have put a couple of dimensionals on the rest of the body of the bird, the wings. So we have that. Now for the top. So what I did is I took our one piece that we cut. You only need one piece. And I just basically sort of cut that in half. And then we'll just take your little scissors and just sort of trim along that so you don't have that sharp edge out. And then we're just going to lay these like so, just using a couple drops of adhesive on the back to hold them in place. If you wanted, you could use adhesive sheets on the back of your cardstock before you cut it, but I find sometimes just a little tiny drop of glue is all that's needed. Do the same on this piece. And that just sort of highlights that sentiment. And I just love that, where it says, may the spirit of the season bring you hope, happiness, and love. I just think that's a beautiful sentiment. And now bring in your linen thread, and I actually doubled it up and made a double bow. So I just take my piece, I fold it in half, and then we're just gonna tie it, pushing those two pieces through. You could cut two pieces, but I have found that this works just as well. And we'll pull that tight. I'm gonna cut that loop, trim off the excess. We'll add that right where those two meet, and you can use a glue dot to hold that, or you can put a drop of glue, whatever you feel most comfortable using. If you use a glue dot, just sort of roll that down so it's one piece. And then the last touch of this is to add our little pearl embellishments. So there, we have completed the front of our card of the Jolly Holly meets Peace on Earth. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video today. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it if you would just hit that subscribe button. Then you'll get notified whenever I post new videos. There are 4 videos in this series, as there were 4 cards from the class. And if you would, take a moment and hit the like as well. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.